This is going to be the first mock draft that I conduct for the Seattle Seahawks this offseason. I usually like to just stay in place and pick for mock draft situations. By the way, this one's only going to focus on the first 4 rounds. I constantly, when I operate Seahawks drafts, I think I've done 6 at this point, end up getting trade offers from the Packers for 18, and the Packers are sitting at 23. In this case, I took it. So the draft spots that you see flying across your screen here are actually going to change. I ended up with 23 plus 87 in exchange for, I think it was 18 and a sixth this year, and maybe a fifth in 2026. So maybe the numbers don't work out, but that's what I took it reluctantly because look, there was awesome talent on the board at 18. I think Schneider and the Seahawks front office, they've got an unbelievable opportunity at 18 to improve with guys like Mike Green, Luther Burden. Look, I think the Seahawks have to address wide receiver at some point for the future, and he's a fantastic talent, as well as Josh Simmons, Tyler Booker, Malachi Starks, just a ton of talent to choose from at 18. I really want Mike Green to end up on some team that I get the chance to cover, whether it's the Ravens, the Lions, or the Seahawks, so I can watch him develop and see if he plays to the level that my eyes think he will quickly. He's just got immense potential, but Seattle has Boye Mafe, Derek Hall under contract. I have no idea what's going to happen with Uchenna and Wosu. I think his cap hit was originally supposed to be 21 million for 2025. I'm sure they'll either restructure that. If he weren't there, if Nwosu weren't there, that changes the dynamic at pick 18. But in this case, like I said, I traded out of 18 with the Packers to move back to regain another third round pick. And round one pick at 23, I took a chance on a guy who was hurt in 2024. Who knows what the medical reports will look like from the combine and from teams. So maybe Josh Simmons is a guy that certain teams will not select, but he was badass at Ohio State before he got injured. Also, gaining the additional pick at 87 spurred me to think, okay, there's really good offensive line depth here in this draft. And so maybe at 23, I don't take an offensive lineman. That was the thought process for me, at least when I chose to trade back. Now, who knows how free agency impacts things and how it looks, heading into the combine right now. I'm recording this Tuesday afternoon versus once the combine is over, and then once we get to and then through free agency. I think Nwosu's contract has already had some guarantees kick in the tune of like maybe $6 million, something like that. Probably be restructured if not let go. The point is, I nearly took Mike Green or Luther Burden at 18, despite all the offensive line issues for Seattle, and it was borderline catastrophic in 2024. They've got a lot of talent on offense. The O-line situation has to be addressed. I think it has to be a focus. The Kubiak offense is going to be reliant on, I think, running the football, setting things up with foundational run concepts. Burden, Green, all of those guys incredibly talented. So is Josh Simmons. Very balanced, athletic, scheme diverse. I think he's got great pass pro skills and diversity already. How the Seahawks would integrate him with Charles Cross, who I was higher on when he came out in the draft than he has versus compared to how he has performed thus far. I know injuries have been an issue as well there. Simmons looks like a left tackle for me. I'm really excited to see how they could integrate those two guys and using Josh Simmons to upgrade the offensive line immediately at pick 23 after trading back. Second pick that I made in round 2, look, there's some really good outside linebacker edge players still on the board. You've got the guy from Ole Miss, Princely, however you say his last name, Landon Jackson, I think it is, from Arkansas. It's like 6'5", 6'6", so really big frame. Kyle Kennard, who's a 6'4 guy, 6'5", had 11.5 sacks last year. Maybe he's a little lighter than other guys at the position at 235, 240-ish, but he'll probably grow into that frame at 6'4", 6'5". Now, in this scenario, the one that I'm presenting to you now, this has Mafe, Hall, and Nwosu returning for 2025. So I passed on all of those guys that I just mentioned. With those two picks coming up back-to-back at 82 and 87, I planned on taking an outside linebacker there. This is a personal favorite of mine, Trey Amos, and this will probably be the last mock draft where I select him. I did one for the Ravens Sunday, and then one for the Lions, and I've already picked Trey Amos twice now in the course of 3 different mock drafts. I personally just think he's very balanced, competitive, really reminds me of a bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic Amik Robertson, who had a great 2024 season in Detroit. I nearly took some offensive line help here, and I get it that there's going to be Seahawks fans that'll disagree with taking O-line with your first two picks. Donovan Jackson was there, Jonah Savinea from Arizona. I think he's better suited for guard. In any case, Amos comes in and gives this secondary no holes, theoretically, with Woolen, Witherspoon added to the safety / nickel group, Julian Love, Kobe Bryant, and Rayshon Jenkins. Amos is really competitive, borderline combative at times, extremely tough in coverage, particularly man, that is, but I think he's got coverage versatility, really good in zone from the film that I had, which was 4 games at the point that I was able to complete my study on him. I get it, not taking an outside linebacker DN for some people looks wrong, but the Nwosu free agency situation will change things heading into that decision for the Seahawks. So we're looking at Josh Simmons and Trey Amos for the first 2 picks. And we'll move on to round 3. Again, there's 2 round 3 picks here, 82 and 87. I think this is a better draft than people presume. Taking the guard from Purdue, M'Bow. There's wide receivers still on the board at the time that I take this pick. And again, I think that Seattle does have to address wide receiver at a certain point. Man, any team that I get the chance to watch or cover or choose to cover, I guess I should say, passing on Luther Burden is going to be difficult for me to justify. He looks like an electric wide receiver to me, and I found myself arguing or being confrontational with this pick even as I made it. I think it improves the depth on the offensive line for the Seahawks, gives them guys who can play now, in the case of both of them, and or the future, M'Bow, if he's not able to get a starting spot this year. The wide receivers that were on the board here, Jalen Royals, Xavier Restrepo, and then some DNs, Jared Ivey. I took a chance on a guy that I really want to pick, and that's Braden Swinson from LSU. I love the film of him that I have seen, and when I made this pick to reinforce the offensive line position at 82, I clicked the button with the hope or fear that Swinson may not be there. He actually was. And so this third round trade back in first round, netted an extra third round pick. And I think Swinson, he's 6'5", he's 250, so he really fits right in with the size of a Boye Mafe. Not as fast. I think Mafe was a 4.63, 40-yard dash. I could be wrong there. Maybe even faster. Swinson projected to be like a 4.7, 4.72 guy. He had 8.5 sacks last year at LSU. He had transferred in from Oregon. I think he was there for 3 seasons. Really good at getting consistent pressure. Refined, almost polished pass rush moves. And so I felt like getting this pick in round 3. I was fortunate in this situation. I didn't think the other 3 or 4 edge rushers that were on the board at 87 or even 82 for that matter was necessarily as exciting for me as Swinson is. You may not have the same shining opinion of him as I do. I get it. I really think he's a guy that probably gets looks at in the second round, later in the second round, and may not even be there for 87. Really good at getting consistent pressure, like I said. I wanted to address the depth for the Seahawks at outside linebacker for a lot of reasons for the future. But also, at this point, Nwosu has had 2 injury-prone seasons, unfortunately. And he's a guy that I really enjoyed the film of 3 seasons ago when he was healthy, and I think he had 9.5 sacks. The Seattle's defense can't rely on, Leonard Williams to be Superman every week. He really was Superman from week 11 onward. If you didn't watch a film study that I did once the regular season ended on Leonard Williams, please consider doing so. I'll link it up here in the description and during this timestamp in the top right corner. One of my favorite players, and I think one of the biggest Pro Bowl snubs and All-Pro snubs in the entirety of 2024, and that was Leonard Williams. I don't know how someone could watch the film of him, particularly, I think it was from the Arizona game forward, so it might not have been week 11. I may have misremembered or misspoke there. As good as it gets as any defensive player in the NFL for me. I hope that Swinson can develop and offer something. I recognize it's going to be tough to justify passing on Mike Green there at 18. Like I said, I traded back, and then you end up with Swinson, who doesn't have the same reputation. But in this scenario, I think you, as a Seahawks fan, might be pleasantly surprised with Swinson's ability later, and then also sooner, as you will. As an aside, I do have significant film of college players organized that I use to make these videos, and so I just want to briefly show you guys, not the film. I don't show college film on my channel at all. This is a film, essentially a shared document that offers the ability for people to watch film. I currently offer this to people in my Ravens and Lions discords. Excuse me. I'm not sure how to share it with Seahawks fans, but I would really like to for a lot of reasons. Number one, Seahawks fans were incredible to me and my channel in the regular season when I did content on their team. So well received and so many comments that pushed my content to larger audiences. So for that, I am grateful. So if you have any ideas about how I can make this available, I don't want to just share the link to anyone because my intention here, to be upfront, is about 3 weeks before the draft, maybe 4, share this document somehow on social media and allow people to access it with the film associated with it. You don't see the film, but you can see the film labeled here for Trey Amos. Usually have 15 to 20 plays per player marked up such that people could see it and then see some of my notes. And as you can see, I've actually made some progress since I recorded this for you. Let me pull that back a little bit. My apologies. You have what looks like to be about maybe 33% of those players for the first 4 rounds. Those are Ravens picks numbered on the left-hand side, by the way, where I have created the online folder, the shared document, or shared drive, excuse me, for those players. And there's also a description. You can see one now for Darian Porter, who's almost a Reek Woolen-like replica, 6'4", 4'3", 5'40" guy, a great ball skills, converted wide receiver in college. All sounds really familiar, right? But in any case, that's my spiel. I put it in the middle of this video and not at the beginning. Forgive me if that lost track or lost the flow. I'm quite sure that some people will not like my final pick here. And I really enjoy watching film of Nick Nash, the wide receiver from San Jose State. I believe he had 104 catches last year. I've neglected this wide receiver position for Seattle in this draft. I felt like I got lucky with the way things worked out. Swinson being there at 87. It was a gamble. Well, it was a gamble to not take him at 82. I'm going to tell you the player that I really wanted at 137, and that was Demetrius Knight. He almost made it. If you don't know who that is, he's an inside linebacker from South Carolina. Extremely fast and athletic. Explosive player, smart with his reads. I think he'd be an excellent fit. I was hoping to get him. I believe he got taken at 130 in this draft. Looking at his draft projections, it's going to be tough for Seattle to actually get him. I recognize the Ernest Jones IV, situation still hasn't worked out. Here at 137, I didn't have Knight available. I really wanted him. I also prefer Ty Felton from Maryland, a wide receiver. I've seen a lot of him because, A, this is where I'm from. That's the local school. But I find myself more and more intrigued by Nick Nash. First of all, the production. This year, he dominated some good teams. He had 16 catches against Washington State, some good programs, I should say. 10 catches for 98 yards against Wyoming, 6 for 160 against Oregon State, 9 catches for 126 against a really good Boise State team, obviously. 2 touchdowns on 8 catches against Stanford, had 104 catches in 2024, 16 touchdowns. Oh, by the way, he's got quarterback skill set and quarterback background. He threw 2 passes in 2024, he being Nick Nash. Both of them were completed for touchdowns. Why? He's a guy who, up until 2021, was playing quarterback for San Jose State. He actually attempted almost 140 passes as a quarterback in 2021. I took him. I really like him. I would love for one of the teams that I get to cover, Ravens, Lions, or Seahawks, to draft Nick Nash and see. He's 6'3", by the way. The description, some of the stats, I should say, that you would see with the high percentage catches to targets, you think, oh, he's a small slot receiver. No, he's 6'3". He's a big guy, so really intriguing prospect if you ask me. In any case, this was my draft, my first mock draft for the Seattle Seahawks. Some of the pictures and the player names will flow through. Hopefully I didn't make any errors there. The combine obviously is going to have a big impact for some of these players. That you may have a guy like Trey Amos not even be there. If his 40 time is higher, Josh Simmons could be a guy who could drop if his medicals aren't great because he only played 5 games for Ohio State in 2024. Let me know what you think of the players that I selected here. Trading back, hopefully it's not viewed as a cop-out in a mock draft situation. I normally don't do that. In this case, I felt so annoyed by the Packers' constant offers. I think it's 5 of my 6 times that I have done a mock for the Seahawks, and this one that I'm producing here or showing you is the final version of it. 5 of the 6 times that I have done so Green Bay has prompted me to trade back to 23. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it'll eventually occur. I'm not even sure that Seahawks fans would want their team to trade back 5 picks with guys like Mike Green, Luther Burden, Josh Simmons still on the board. Premier talent at what's called premier positions in this day and age in the NFL. In any case, this is my 4-round mock draft for the Seahawks. Let me know what you think of the selections I made in the comments section and the rationale that I showed it, number one. Number two, if you have any ideas for how I could share the draft document to Seahawks fans, I mean early, before I put it out on social media with like a $2 surcharge for people to access it, I would like to share it with Seahawks fans in the same manner as I do with Ravens and Lions fans for free, just via link. Then please let me know in the comment section. Finally, if you think other Seattle fans would enjoy this mock draft content that I put out, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.